The road leading to Blackwood Manor was narrow and winding, flanked by towering oak trees whose bare branches clawed at the sky. Emily Carter gripped the steering wheel, her heart pounding in anticipation. She had read about the house, its tragic history, the whispers of hauntings, but she told herself those were just stories. A Gothic mansion shrouded in mystery was the perfect place to finish her novel. As she rounded the final bend, the house emerged from the fog, a looming silhouette against the overcast sky. Blackwood Manor stood 3 stories tall, its stone walls weathered by time. Ivy crept up its sides, curling around broken window panes like skeletal fingers. The iron gates creaked as she pushed them open, the sound echoing in the stillness of the afternoon. Emily parked her car in the gravel driveway, stepping out into the chilly autumn air. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. She pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders and glanced up at the house. For a moment, she thought she saw movement behind one of the upstairs windows, a flicker of a shadow. But when she blinked, it was gone. Just my imagination. She muttered, shaking off the unease. She retrieved her suitcase and laptop bag from the trunk and made her way to the front door. The key, sent to her by the property manager, was heavy in her palm. As she slid it into the rusted lock, with a reluctant groan, the door swung open, revealing the cavernous darkness inside. The house remembers. The air inside Blackwood Manor was stale, carrying the faint scent of old books, wood polish, and something else, something faintly metallic. Dust motes floated in the dim light, filtering through the heavy curtains. Emily hesitated on the threshold, a strange feeling creeping up her spine. It was as if the house was holding its breath. Waiting, she stepped inside. The wooden floorboards creaked beneath her boots, the sound echoing through the empty halls. The foyer was grand but neglected. A massive chandelier hung overhead, its crystals dulled with dust. A winding staircase with a carved mahogany banister led to the second floor, where shadows pooled in the corners. Emily set her bags down and exhaled slowly. Home sweet home, she whispered. She had rented the manor for 6 months, long enough to finish her book without distractions. No more coffee shop noise, no more city clamor, just solitude. But as she moved deeper into the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Whispers of the past. The library was the reason she had chosen Blackwood Manor, a vast room lined with towering bookshelves, filled with forgotten stories. She traced her fingers along the spines of ancient tomes, inhaling the scent of parchment and dust. As she reached the far corner, something unusual caught her eye. A book lay on the floor, open as if someone had been reading it, and simply walked away. Emily bent down, brushing off the cover. The tragic history of Blackwood Manor. A chill ran down her spine. She hadn't seen this book in the listing photos. Curiosity got the best of her. She carried the book to the large oak desk near the window, flipping through its yellowed pages. The first few chapters described the construction of the house. In the late 1800s, a wealthy businessman, Charles Blackwood, had built it for his young wife, Lillian. But their happiness was short-lived. Lillian had vanished without a trace. Emily frowned, scanning the brittle pages. Some say she was murdered by her jealous husband. Others claim she ran away. But those who have lived in the house since have reported hearing a woman's voice, soft, whispering, always just out of reach. A gust of wind rattled the windows, making Emily jump. She turned quickly, but the room was empty. The shadows stretched long in the fading light. She closed the book. It's just a story, she told herself. Nothing more. But the house seemed to disagree. That night, the storm rolled in. Rain pelted the windows, and the wind howled through the trees. Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the house was oppressive, pressing in on her like a living thing. Then she heard it. A whisper. It was faint, barely audible over the storm, but it was there. A hushed voice drifting through the halls, carrying words she couldn't quite make out. Emily sat up, heart pounding. She told herself it was the wind, the old pipes, the house settling. But deep down, she knew better. The whispers had begun. Emily sat frozen in her bed, every muscle tense. The whisper had been so faint, so delicate, like a breath against her ear. She strained to listen. Silence. Then, there it was again. A soft, almost pleading voice. The words were unintelligible, but the tone sent a chill down her spine. Emily grabbed her phone from the nightstand, turning on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing only the old furniture and the peeling wallpaper. Nothing unusual. Taking a deep breath, she swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood. The wooden floor was cold beneath her bare feet as she crept toward the door. "Hello," she called, her voice barely above a whisper. No answer. She stepped into the hallway. The air was heavier here, thick with something unseen. The whispering had stopped, replaced by the sound of rain hammering against the roof. Emily exhaled and shook her head. "It's just my imagination. That, or I'm overtired." She turned to go back to bed when she saw it. The library door was open. She distinctly remembered closing it before turning in for the night. A new wave of unease swept over her, but she forced herself to move. Maybe the wind pushed it open, she reasoned, though she knew the latch had been stiff when she'd shut it. Pushing the door open wider, she shined her light inside. The room was just as she'd left it, the towering bookshelves, the large oak desk, the single chair. Nothing out of place, except for the book. The tragic history of Blackwood Manor now lay open in the center of the desk, pages fluttering slightly, as if someone had just set it down. Emily's pulse quickened. She had closed that book before going to bed. She was sure of it. Slowly, she stepped closer and peered at the open pages. The text was old-fashioned, the ink slightly faded, but one passage had been circled in dark, jagged strokes. She walks the halls, trapped between worlds. Her voice but a whisper in the night. The wind howled outside, shaking the windows. And behind her, a whisper, right in her ear. Emily spun around, heart hammering in her chest. But the room was empty. She backed away, her breath coming in short gasps. Whatever was in this house, it knew she was here. Emily slammed the library door shut, her breath ragged. Her hands trembled as she pressed her back against the wooden surface, heart pounding in her ears. It's just the wind, just an old house settling. But she knew she was lying to herself. The whisper had been real, and it had been close. For a long moment, she stayed there, listening. The rain continued its relentless assault on the windows, the wind howling like a wounded animal. But the house itself had fallen silent. Slowly, she made her way back to the bedroom. She locked the door. Crawling under the covers, she forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly. She needed sleep. Maybe she was just exhausted. Maybe her mind was playing tricks on her. Eventually, the storm outside lulled her into a restless sleep. A presence unseen. A creaking sound woke her. Emily's eyes snapped open. The bedroom door was still locked. The window was closed. But something felt wrong. The air had changed, thicker, heavier, like someone else was in the room with her. She held her breath, listening. Nothing. Then, a floorboard creaked near the foot of her bed. Her pulse skyrocketed. She couldn't see anything in the darkness, but she felt it. A presence standing just beyond her vision. Watching. The room was too quiet, as if the entire house was holding its breath. Then came the whisper. Soft, urgent. "Help me." Emily's blood ran cold. She reached for her phone, fumbling to turn on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on nothing. The room was empty, but the air was still thick, pressing against her skin like unseen hands. Emily forced herself to sit up, her fingers gripping the covers tightly. "If I start giving in to fear, I'll never last here." Gathering her courage, she whispered back, "Who are you?" No response. The silence stretched on, suffocating. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the weight in the air lifted. The oppressive feeling vanished, like a breath exhaled into the night. Emily swallowed hard. She turned off the flashlight and lay back down, forcing herself to close her eyes. Even as she drifted into uneasy sleep, one thought haunted her. She was not alone in this house, and whatever was here, it wanted something from her. The next morning, Emily awoke to a gray, overcast sky. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside drenched and shrouded in mist. She sat up slowly, her body stiff from a restless night. For a moment, she almost convinced herself that the whispers had been a dream. Almost. Then she saw it. The book. The tragic history of Blackwood Manor was now on her nightstand, open to the same passage as before. She walks the halls, trapped between worlds. Her voice but a whisper in the night. Emily's stomach clenched. She had left the book in the library. Her hands felt clammy as she reached out, shutting the book with a sharp snap. The rational part of her mind struggled to explain it. Had she sleepwalked? Carried it to her room without remembering? She needed answers. Exploring the house, determined to shake off the unease, Emily spent the day exploring the manor. The house was massive, with twisting hallways and forgotten rooms, some filled with old furniture covered in white sheets. Dust coated nearly everything, except for a few spots, as if someone had recently walked through. At the end of the second-floor hallway, she found a door that was different from the others. It was locked. She jiggled the handle. Nothing. Curious, she leaned closer, pressing her ear against the wood. At first, there was only silence. Then, a whisper, muffled, distant, like someone speaking from the other side. Emily jerked back, her breath catching in her throat. The air around the door felt colder, as if the temperature had dropped several degrees. Was someone inside? Shivers ran down her spine. She had to get out of this hallway. Turning sharply, she rushed back downstairs, but as she did, she felt it, the sensation of being watched. She didn't look back. An unsettling discovery. That evening, she forced herself to work on her novel, but her mind kept drifting back to the locked room. She found herself pacing in front of the library's fireplace, her thoughts racing. She had to know more about this house. Pulling the tragic history of Blackwood Manor from the shelf, she flipped through the pages, searching for any mention of a locked room. Then she found it. Following Lillian Blackwood's disappearance, her husband ordered the east wing sealed off. Servants claimed they heard crying behind the locked door, though no one ever saw her again. Some believe her spirit still lingers there, waiting to be set free. Emily's blood ran cold. The locked door she had found, it was in the east wing. A loud thud echoed through the house, making her jump. It had come from upstairs, from behind the locked door. Emily clutched the book tightly, her breath shallow. She wasn't imagining things. Something, or someone, was trapped in that room, and it wanted her to find it. Emily sat frozen in the library, gripping the old book as if it could protect her from whatever was upstairs. The thud had been loud, deliberate. Her instincts screamed at her to leave, pack her bags, drive away, and never look back. But something inside her resisted. This house held secrets, buried beneath years of dust and silence. And now, for some reason, those secrets were reaching out to her. Taking a deep breath, she stood and grabbed a flashlight. If there was something behind that locked door, she needed to know what. A house that watches. The hallway felt colder than before. The dim afternoon light barely penetrated the heavy curtains, casting long shadows across the floor. She approached the locked door cautiously, half expecting it to open on its own. But the handle was as stiff as before. Her fingers brushed against the wood. The air around the door felt strange, charged, almost electric. Then, a whisper. So soft, so close. Find the key. Emily gasped and spun around, her heart slamming against her ribs. The hallway was empty, but the feeling of being watched had returned, stronger than ever. She needed to find that key. The forgotten desk. Back in the library, she searched through the desk drawers. Most were filled with brittle papers and dried-out inkwells. But in the bottom drawer, beneath a pile of old letters, she found it, a small, rusted key. Her breath hitched. Could this be the key to the locked room? She held it tightly, feeling the weight of it in her palm. It was cold. As she turned to leave the library, something caught her eye. The fireplace. The dust on the hearth had been disturbed, as if someone, or something, had walked through it recently. A single footprint, barely visible. Not hers. Emily's pulse quickened. She wasn't alone. The door opens. Clutching the key, she made her way back upstairs. The hallway stretched before her, eerily silent. She reached the locked door. Her hands trembled as she slid the key into the lock. Click. The door creaked open. Cold air rushed past her, carrying the scent of dust and something else, something decayed. Darkness loomed beyond the threshold, and in the center of the room stood a single wooden chair. On it sat a dress, an old, faded dress, draped over the chair as if someone had just been wearing it. Emily's stomach twisted. Then, the whisper came again, right behind her. You found me. Emily's breath hitched. The whisper had come from right behind her. Too close. She spun around, flashlight trembling in her grasp. The hallway was empty, but the air felt different, charged, alive with something unseen. She turned back to the room. The chair, the old dress draped over it. The dust floating lazily in the cold, stale air. And then she saw it. The mirror on the far wall. It was cracked, its surface dark with age. But something moved within it, a shape, a figure. Emily stepped closer, her pulse thundering in her ears. The flashlight flickered as she raised it toward the mirror. A pale hand pressed against the glass from the inside. Then, a face, gaunt, hollow eyes, a mouth that barely moved as it whispered, "Help me." Emily stumbled back, her chest tightening with terror. But as she stared, she understood. The spirit in the mirror, it was Lillian Blackwood, breaking the curse. Lillian's reflection shimmered, her desperate eyes pleading. Emily forced herself to breathe. If Lillian was trapped here, she had to help her. Heart hammering, she turned, searching the room. There had to be something, a clue, an object tying Lillian's soul to this place. Then she saw it. A wooden floorboard slightly lifted near the chair. She dropped to her knees and pried it open. Inside was a small, dusty box. Emily hesitated, then lifted the lid. Inside lay a bundle of old letters and a locket. She picked it up carefully, her fingers brushing the cold metal. A sharp whisper filled the air, stronger now. "He trapped me." Emily's mind raced. Charles Blackwood, her husband. He must have locked her away, hidden the truth. The whisper grew urgent. "Burn it." Emily's eyes snapped to the fireplace. Without hesitating, she grabbed the box and rushed downstairs. The house felt alive around her, shadows shifting, whispers rising in a chaotic storm. She reached the library fireplace, tossing the box inside. With shaking hands, she struck a match. The moment the flame touched the wood, a piercing wail echoed through the house. The walls shuddered. The temperature rose. The air grew thick with smoke and whispers. Then, silence. Emily gasped, stumbling back as the fire consumed the locket and letters. The heavy weight in the air lifted. The whispers ceased. She turned, breathless, and saw the mirror. Lillian's reflection was smiling. Then, she faded. Gone. Epilogue, the last whisper. A week later, Emily packed her bags. The house felt different now, lighter, as if the darkness had finally let go. As she stepped outside, she turned for one last look at Blackwood Manor. A gentle breeze brushed against her ear, and in the softest whisper, barely there. "Thank you." Emily smiled. Then she walked away, leaving the past behind.